Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Just when I think I've learned every disturbing thing about our society, I discover something else disturbing. And this one here blew my mind. And Jason sent me a note and said, Steve, check out this lawsuit and this case out of the Ninth Circuit involving your car. And I thought, that's interesting. You see, I have a couple cars, and one of my cars is a relatively late model Ford Explorer. And this is one of those cars where I walk over, and when I get in the car, if my phone is on me, my phone connects to the infotainment center, so if somebody calls me, I can answer the phone and just talk, and it works through the magic of the car itself. But it also turns out, apparently, that most modern cars now not only allow you to simply hook your phone through them to make phone calls and receive phone calls, they will also download your text messages and other information off your phone, and they will go through it looking for information that they can use. And then, of course, they can make that information available to anybody else who wants it, including, law enforcement. And so a lawsuit got filed in the state of Washington about this. And it was filed as a class action on behalf of everyone who owned one of these cars against several of the car companies. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals just dismissed the case. It was actually already dismissed, but they upheld the dismissal. And said that, there's actually nothing illegal about this. And see, in Washington, they've got a law on privacy. And so somebody said, isn't this a violation of our privacy law? And the Ninth Circuit said, no, it's not. So as of right now, next time you get in your car and your phone is on you, remind yourself that, by the way, the car itself might be downloading all my text messages and looking through it for keywords and perhaps selling information to people who want to know, like somebody who's looking for something. And again, I find this very disturbing, but the case is Stacy Rich, etc., versus American Honda Motor, etc. And this is a case where the plaintiffs appeal the dismissal of their class action, alleging that American Honda Motor Company made unlawful recordings of their private communications. So they're saying also that, this stuff's being recorded in violation of the Washington Privacy Act. Okay? So, by the way, his entire opinion is less than 3 pages. Very, very short. The case is one of 5 related class actions in which a group of Washington residents alleged that automobile manufacturers recorded and intercepted their private text messages and call logs from their cell phones when they connected the phones to their respective vehicles' onboard infotainment system. The cases are related because although the class actions were brought against separate automobile manufacturers, the factual background and legal issues are virtually identical. So this case is captioned against Honda. Previously, one had been brought against Ford, and there are others involved. And the court says, we affirmed the court's dismissal under 12b-6. We have jurisdiction pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1291. And for the same reason set out in the Ford case, we affirm the dismissal of this case. We conclude, as in Jones, that the district court properly retained jurisdiction to hear the case. Plaintiffs' operative complaint alleged that their vehicle's infotainment systems download and permanently store all text messages and call logs. Who you called and when. Who called you and when. And they do this without their consent. At the pleading stage, this alleged violation of a substantive privacy right is sufficient to confer standing. We also conclude, as in Jones, that the district court properly dismissed the merits of the claims under the Washington Privacy Act. The district court properly dismissed the claims for failure to satisfy the statutory injury requirement. To succeed at the pleading stage of one of these claims, a plaintiff must allege an injury to his or her business, person, or reputation. Contrary to plaintiff's argument, a bare violation of the WPA is insufficient to satisfy the statutory injury requirement. They affirm the case, and that's it. So like I said, 2.5-page case opinion. And this, to me, is bizarre. I don't know about the Washington Privacy Act. I don't know what it requires. But this is a great example of something where you go, okay, I remember when I got in my car. When I bought it, the salesman's showing me how all the different things work and says, by the way, you can hook your phone up, blah, 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 blah. I'm relatively certain that buried in there somewhere was some terms of use Click here to accept. And buried in there is probably language that says, you agree to let us track all of your texts and all of your phone calls and all this stuff. And it's probably buried in there language the average person wouldn't recognize. But it's not something the average person would expect. Do I really expect Ford Motor Company to download my texts into their system? Apparently they do. And my call logs. Who do I call? Who's Steve calling these days? Who's calling Steve? Let's take a look at those. Why are they doing that now? I presume they're doing it for marketing purposes. And I don't mean to sell me stuff. I mean to sell my information to other people. So if I text somebody and say, hey, I'm looking for a lawnmower, how much you want to bet that that'll put up a little flag and they'll sell the information to some company that sells lawnmowers? And we've talked about this before, and this is one of those funny things. I've been doing videos on YouTube now for 9 years. And a long time ago, I was talking about how anytime I'm near my phone and I mention certain keywords, I start getting ads for it popping up on Facebook and also getting ads thrown at me from Amazon and a couple other places. And I said, your phone is listening to you. And I got so much pushback from people going, Steve, you're paranoid. Your phone's not listening to you. That's just a coincidence. Since then, how many articles have you seen about how your phone is actually listening to you? It is, okay? Who'd have thought that the automotive companies are not only listening to you, but are tracking all of your texts and recording them? And again, like I said, doing what with them? Presumably combing through, they're looking for useful information. But as noted elsewhere, I forgot where I saw it, but I saw it someplace. That's also available for law enforcement. So if the police wanted to know who I was talking to yesterday, they could ask my phone company. Apparently, they can also ask Ford. And that's troubling. So this is the kind of thing that maybe it's not illegal at this moment in time. Maybe it's not. But it ought to be. And it certainly ought to be something they shouldn't do. But the sad part is that the car companies are in such bad financial straits these days that they're trying to raise money any way they can because competition is so fierce and the economy occasionally does this. So they're looking for steady streams of income. And so if they can get a steady stream of income by selling all the data and information they glean from people's texts who drive their cars, that's probably a lot of money they make. But it's something that's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And apparently it's several car companies. Both Ford and Honda are mentioned here. But in another article I read, they listed a few of the other car companies that do it. I suspect they all do it. But again, it's just a problem. So as of right now, a court has said this is not illegal. But remember, it was only brought under the Washington State Privacy Act. There might be a way to do something federally, or there might be a way to do something in another state. But it's a problem. So I hope somebody takes this up, pushes it, follows through, whatever you got to do, because I think it's absolutely wrong that the car company is recording and keeping copies of all my texts and my call logs. I think that is just ridiculous. So Jason, thanks for sending it. That simply is the Court of Appeals opinion I read to you. Stacy Rich et al. Versus American Honda Motor et al. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. A woman's mind is cleaner than a man's. She changes it more often.